Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. This morning, I'm going to go over some articles that was on Skip Portis's old site that was run during the 1990s and the early 2000s on information about the Council for National Policy. I'm going to read some articles that Skip had reported, some inside information from some CNP meetings. Here is the old archive of his old website. And it was pretty good research for the time. I mean, way more than we actually have now, about the CNP, their contact information, members by name from 1996 and 1998 in memoriam, people who have died, CNP awards, that they had won the Thomas Jefferson Award for Servant Leadership, 1992 Clarence Thomas, 1983 Jesse Helms, 1984 John F. Lehman. So very interesting. Some very old information on the CNP, but still very important. Of course, Oliver North. The kind of people that are involved in this organization reflect the best of what America really is. Yeah, the gun runner, drug runner, and child runner Ollie North. Huh. I mean, I guess maybe I should trust these people. Tim LaHaye, Judge Paul Pressler. Oh, we'll get to Judge Paul Pressler in later streams. Phil Schlafly, Pat Robertson, Richard DeVos, Ed Meese, Jim Dobson, Ralph Reed. I think the Youth Council for National Policy has been a critical part because what it has allowed us to do is to sit at the feet of our elders and learn from them. So it's interesting to have some old quotes from the CNP back in the day. Rules and regulations, nomination processes. At that time, back in the 1990s, it cost $10,000 per year to be a Gold Circle member. $100 per year to be on the Youth Council. I think Gold Circle members now cost $50,000 if I remember per year. Board of Governors was $6,000 per year. Of course, we learned that Thomas Fitton was on the Board of Governors. Regular member, $1,705 dollars per year. So that's how much it costs to be a member within the CNP. Of course, you had to be nominated by somebody. That's how much it cost back during the 1990s. It's definitely gone up now. So why don't we start with some articles. From January 1994, Council for National Policy members hold cloister session in St. Louis. Over 200 members of the secretive Council for National Policy held closed-door meetings at the Hyatt Regency in St. Louis on October 22nd and 23rd, 1993. Founded in 1981, the CNP membership is a virtual who's who of the religious and political right wing in the United States. The CNP exists as a networking vehicle for right-wing leadership. CNP meetings enable members to become acquainted with one another and to plan short and long-term strategies. At the October meeting, CNP members discuss the implementation of school choice as a mechanism for the elimination of public education. It was reported that CNP member Reverend Dwayne Motley, executive director of New Yorkers for Constitutional Freedoms, told the audience that his group is organizing churches in New York State. Motley received an enthusiastic response from his fellow CNP members when he informed them that he has organized more than 130 churches, which are providing a monthly stipend for NYCF's lobbying efforts in Albany, New York. Morton Blackwell, CNP executive director, said that rules governing the meetings are designed to allow open, uninhibited remarks from our speakers. CNP meetings are closed to the media and general public. The group makes every effort to avoid letting the media know when or where it meets or who participates in its programs. I can go look and see when the CFR meets, where they're meeting, and then who's in the CFR. I still can't do that to the CNP to this day, but they have no power. Any members desiring to bring guests may only do so with the advance unanimous approval from CNP Executive Committee. The CNP membership list is strictly confidential. To encourage openness, it is the group's policy that speakers' remarks at council meetings are off the record and not for circulation. I'm not going to read the next line. You can look at it, read it yourself, okay? It will get me flagged on YouTube, as I'm not reading it. Judy Brown, president of the American Life League, was welcomed as a new member. Other recent new members include Barbara Albee, John Ankerberg, Lee LaHaye, Edward G. Atzinger III, who was the owner of Salem Communications, Benjamin Bull, and Ralph Reed. Albee is a California assemblywoman. Ankerberg is a television evangelist. LaHaye, the son of the Reverend Tim and Beverly LaHaye, is comptroller of Concerned Women for America. Atzinger is president of Salem Communications, which recently purchased Pat Robertson's CBN radio network. Bull is a senior litigation counsel for Pat Robertson's American Center for Law and Justice Western Regional Office in Phoenix. He was formerly general counsel of Reverend Don Wildman's American Family Association and Charles H. Keating Citizens for Decency Through Law. Reed is an executive director of Pat Robertson's Christian Coalition. With about 250 in attendance at the gala dinner, the seating arrangements placed Ralph Reed and his wife Joanne with Linda Bean Falkers, LL Bean board member. State Director of Christian Coalition of Maine, Paul Wyrick of the Free Congress Foundation and Network Empowerment Television joined Holly Coors, Vice Chairman of a Christian ministry in the National Parks and board members of Adolph Coors Foundation at another table. Former Attorney General Edwin Meese III is the CNP's current president. Past presidents include Richard DeVos of the Amway Corporation, Pat Robertson, and Reverend Tim LaHaye. Informed sources told the Freedom Rider that the 1994 meetings are set for February 4th and 5th in Palm Beach, Florida, May 6th and 7th in Arlington, Virginia, November 18 and 19 in New Orleans. Clandestine Council meets in Virginia, June 1995, by Skip Portis. Approximately 375 members of the Secret Council for National Policy held closed-door meetings at the Ritz-Carlton Tysons Corner Hotel in McLean, Virginia, on May 12th and 13th, 1995. Founded in 1981, the CNP membership is a virtual who's who of the religious political right wing in the United States. The meetings are so secretive that the press is not allowed, and no public announcements of the meetings are ever made. That's not really true. I mean, I've seen back in the day, nothing recently, where when I was doing the research in the newspapers, that occasionally, like the week that the event was happening in a local newspaper, it would be posted that it was happening. But other than that, I mean, there's no knowledge nowadays that I know of. Plainclothes security guards carefully watch who comes and goes at the hotels where the meetings are held. The CNP is a networking vehicle for right-wing leadership. CNP meetings enable members to become acquainted with one another, speak freely, and to plan short-term and long-term strategies. At each meeting, CNP Action sponsors standing committee workshops, which provide a vehicle for members to work together to influence crucial public policy decisions. According to a CNP memo, and these workshop members formulate strategies and execute plans to make difference on the issues where we can have a real impact. The 6 permanent member funding committees are Family, co-chaired by Dr. James Dobson of Focus on the Family, and Phyllis Schlafly of the Eagle Forum. Interesting thing about Phyllis Schlafly is in Henry Vincent's book, Confessions of a D.C. Madam, and what I've seen later on in a newspaper article I found about Craig B. Spence, the Republican lobbyist that was connected to Lawrence E. King, and that they were doing callboy tours of the White House that the Washington Times reported by Paul Rodriguez, for George H.W. Bush and for Ronald Wilson Reagan, underage boys, may I add. Phyllis Schlafly, America's grandmother, used to love going to Craig B. Spence's parties. Law and Justice, co-chaired by former Attorney General Edwin Meese III and former Texas Court of Appeals Judge Paul Pressler. Economics, co-chaired by former Office Management and Budget Director Jim Miller and Reed Larson of the National Right to Work Committee. Defense and Foreign Policy, co-chaired by Senator John Cale, representative of Arizona, and Howard Phillips of the Conservative Caucus. Institutional Reform, co-chaired by former California State Senator H.L. Richardson and Direct Mail expert Richard Vigueri. Environment, co-chaired by former of the Interior Secretary of Energy Don Hodel. At the May meeting, CNP members discussed impeachment strategies regarding presidential appointments. Okay, so this is where we get that the impeachment of Bill Clinton came together at the Ritz-Carlton Tyson's Corner Hotel. Now, granted, it was a limited hangout. Ken Starr, who would later go to multiple CNP meetings, probably be a member of the CNP himself, who would later go to work for Kirkland and Ellis, which was the law firm that represented Jeffrey Epstein. Ken Starr himself being on Jeffrey Epstein's legal team. He went after Bill Clinton for perjury and obstruction of justice. Not for Whitewater, not for Mena, Arkansas, because Mena, Arkansas would have taken down the whole world order pyramid, because both the Council of Foreign Relations, the left side, the globalists, and the CNP, the right side, the fascists, were both involved with that. That's why you have Clinton and Bush being both involved with Mena, Arkansas, and the drug trafficking that were occurring at that time. So Ken Starr could not have gone after Clinton on any of those, and so he went after, Linda Tripp and I can't believe I forgot her name. Linda Tripp and Monica Lewinsky. So it was a limited hangout from the very beginning. Now, some people might argue that it was by design, just because this is how the world order operates. It bolstered Clinton's rallied that's if elections aren't rigged completely, but it rallied Clinton's base, the Democratic base, for him to be reelected. Which you think that the CNP wouldn't want that, but then again, the same thing's kind of going on right now with Trump. So I don't know. It's a very complicated mess. It was appointed that any presidential appointee can be impeached, and that the process is quite easy. Though not mentioned specifically, it may be that they had President Clinton's nominee for Surgeon General, Dr. Henry Foster, in the mind during this discussion. No, we'll find out later it was Clinton. Two members of the House of Representatives who were swept into the office last November, Representative Steve Stockman, Republican from Texas, and Representative Helen Chenoweth, Representative of Indiana, spoke on Oklahoma City militias and terrorism. Why would they give a speech about militias and why Oklahoma City? What? Okay. It's weird. Stockman, a lifetime member of the National Rifle Association, is a CNP member. In the June 1995 issue of Guns and Ammo magazine, Stockman wrote, Bill Clinton and the gun control lobby were not unhappy with the fiery end at the siege of Waco. Waco has to be a lesson to gun owners all over America. Don't own firearms that the government doesn't like. I'm not going to disagree with that. Dr. James Dobson led a workshop called Abortion in the Right Republican Party, and spoke about the attitude of Haley Barbour this past spring. Dobson sent a letter to Barbour, the head of the Republican National Committee, saying, if the RNC abandons its clear pro-life position, then you leave us and millions like us with no recourse but to consider a third-party candidate for president in 1996. According to an uninformed source during a question-and-answer session with Senator Bob Smith, who appeared on behalf of Senator Phil Gramm, Dobson proceeded to lecture the group about Graham's waffling on family values. Moderator Ed Meese cautioned Dobson that this was a question-and-answer session and not a debate. According to our source, Meese finally said, Jim, I've told you before this is not a debate, it is a question-and-answer period. Now please sit down so we can have the next question. Ooh. Heat. Meese is bringing the heat. The CNP last conference was held in February in Palm Springs, California. Discussions included capital punishment, school prayer, defunding the left, and the English as the official language of the United States. Richard Vergeri said that the battle to defund the left will be primarily in the committees and subcommittees. In other words, killing funding in committees before items come up for the vote in Congress. Phyllis Schlafly claimed that last year's Congress gave more than $100 billion to feminist organizations. $1 billion to feminist organizations. She also spoke about the need to abolish the National Endowment of the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Howard Phillips called for the constitutional amendment to make English the official language. His proposal was inspired by the passage of California's Proposition 187. CNP Leads the Way in California by Jerry Sloan, January-February 1996. Over 60 Californians are members of the Council for National Policy, and nowhere in the country have CNP members have been more politically active and spent more money than California. Since 1988, many of the members have assumed a very active leadership and generous financial role in a variety of ideological causes, moving the California Republican Party to the ranks of the radical religious right. One of the most influential CNP members no longer lives in California, but his long shadow reaches from the Rocky Mountains to the Sierras. James Dobson, formerly of Pomona, now presides over his focus of the family empire from Colorado Springs. According to a November 26, 1995 article in the Los Angeles Times, California State Senator Robert Hurt Jr. came under the influence of Dobson in the early 80s. Hurt, in turn, helped bring together a group of men who have built a formidable political machine by spending over $8 million from their own pockets to change the face of California politics. All the members of the CNP, this group of men now consists of Howard Amundsen Jr., the heir to the home savings fortune, chair of the California Independent Business PAC, successor to the Allied Business PAC, 20-year trustee of R.J. Rushdoony's Calisedon, board member of the Claremont Institute, a deep-pocket political contributor. In 1985 Orange County Register interview, Amundsen stated he'd want to dictate his fortune to see we have biblical law integrated in our everyday lives. Almost sounds like Noahide laws. Roland Hines, owner of Daisy High Torque Publications, publishers of dirt, bike, and motocross magazines. His wife, Lila, has served on the board of directors of Paul Weyrich's National Empowerment Television. Edward G. Atzinger III, owner of 29 commercial Christian radio stations, graduate of Bob Jones University, and board member of the National Religious Broadcasters Association. Richard A. Riddle, owner of A.W. Walker, a box manufacturer company, and a partner of Richway Industries, an import-export company who does a lot of business with South Korea, and a graduate of Bob Jones University. The group has gone through several name changes. It started out the Capital Commonwealth Group, which became the Allied Business PAC, which in turn has been reborn as a California Independent Business PAC. It has helped elect over one-fourth of the 120 members of the California legislature. Because of the California political campaign laws, Senator Hurt was forced to drop out of the California Independent Business PAC. However, that did not stop him from spending almost $2 million on political campaigns in 1994. In 1987, Hurt, Amundsen, and the CNP member Preston Hawks, a developer, founded the Capital Resource Institute in Sacramento as a public policy organization affiliated with Focus on the Family. Since CRI's founding, Hurt and Amundsen have presided over 75% of the annual budget. With a small staff, CR conducts a multitude of activities such as lobbying the legislature on behalf of Hurt and FOF, publishing at least 2 monthly newsletters, conducting daily and weekly radio programs, mostly on Atzinger's radio stations, providing voters guides, and presenting community impact committee seminars. Amundsen's Megabucks also provides for such organizations as the Western Center for Law and Religious Freedom, the Reason Foundation, the Claremont Institute, the Heritage Foundation, the California Pro-Life Council, and Chalcedon, Inc. In 1994, the men supported a federal school voucher initiative by providing over $450,000. According to a Common Cause report, in 1994, they were responsible for almost 10% of the money donated to the California Republican Party. Another CNP member is Assemblywoman Barbara Albee, an ally of the former state senator of H.L. Bill Richardson, a longtime Christian Reconstructionist activist. Assembly Howard Callaghan of San Diego County is a new member. Former Assemblyman Patrick Nolan is still listed in the 1995 CNP phone directory as a member, although he's presently a resident of a federal correctional facility. I wonder what Patrick Nolan did. Nolan pleaded no contest to political corruption charges. Christian Reconstructionist guru R.J. Rushdoony has been listed as a member for many years, although he claims he had been a meeting in years and doesn't know who pays his annual membership fees. Some other Californians who are members: Pat Boone, the famous actor, singer, and infomercializer; William Danmeyer, former U.S. Representative; Robert K. Dornan, U.S. Representative and candidate for Republican presidential nomination; William Sarcino, Citizens for Responsible Representation Slate mailer expert; Louis K. Euler, U.S. Taxpayer Association author of California Legislative Term Limits; Barbara Keating Eade, Citizen Alert, failed candidate for the Assembly. James Dignan, former chair of the Republican State Party. Dr. Henry M. Morris, retired president of the Institution for Creation Research. Margaret Lesher, former owner of the Lesher Publishing Empire, which she reportedly sold for $350 million. W. Robert Stover, chairman of the Western Temporary Services. Among their temporary services, they supply most of Santa's for department stores and malls in California. That's interesting. Larry Arnn, president of the Claremont Institute, promoters of the Anti-Affirmative Action Initiative. Robert W. Poole, president of the Reason Foundation. Joseph Farah, former editor of the now-defunct Sacramento Union and the current editor-in-chief and owner of WorldNet Daily. That will later happen. Miss Terry Siemens, a former Miss California. William Rusher, fellow of the Claremont Institute. David Balsiger, movie and television producer. John Stews, former executive director of California Gun Owners Association and political consultant. To define most CNP members as radical is charitable. As one looks at activities in which CNP members are engaged, it would appear their goal is the destruction of society as we know it. I mean, as much as the left is, as much as the CFR is. I mean, come on, gotta be real here. They're leading the charge to deny minorities equality, destroy public education and the institution of government. California is their testing ground. Oh, you can always tell. You can always tell when someone who's a little bit on the left-leaning liberal persuasion writes these articles. Here's a sampling of some CNP members, and I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to make note of people who are very high up. National elected officials: Representative Dick Armey, Republican of Texas; Representative Tom DeLay, Republican of Texas; Representative Steve Stockman, Republican of Texas; Senator Jesse Helm from my state of North Carolina, Representative North Carolina; Trent Lott, Representative; Don Nichols, Representative; Gary Bauer, President of the Family Research Council; James Dobson, Focus on the Family; Ed Fulner, Heritage Foundation; Rod Godwin, Senior Vice President of the Mooney Washington Times; Beverly LaHaye, who was Tim LaHaye's wife, Tim LaHaye; Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North; Howard Phillips, Chairman of the Conservative Caucus; Ralph Reed, Executive Director of the Christian Coalition; Edgar Prince, Chairman of the Prince Corporation; Larry Pratt, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America; Pat Robertson, President of the Christian Coalition, Christian Broadcasting Network and Family Channel; R.J. Rushdoony, President of Chalcedon; William Rusher, syndicated columnist; Phyllis Schlafly, President of the Eagle Forum; Major General John K. Singlaub, founding member of the Central Intelligence Agency and former member of the Office of Strategic Services, United States, retired; John Sununu, talk show host; Richard Vigueri, Chairman of American Target Advertising; Paul Weyrich, President of the Free Congress Foundation; John Whitehead, Chairman of the Rutherford Institute. We're going to talk about Whitehead in a minute. Reverend Don Wildman, President of the American Family Association; Edward Atzinger, President of Salem Communications; John Belk, Chairman of the Belk Stores, the Belk Department Stores; Holly Coors, Jeffrey Coors, Rich DeVos, Amway Corporation; Nelson Bunker Hunt, Chairman of the Hunt Energy Corporation. That's from January to February 1996, members of the CNP. Council for National Policy, Instrumental in Government Shutdown by Skip Portis, January, February 1996. On September 19th, 1995, the influential Council for National Policy sent its members a confidential memo featuring a For Your Eyes Only interview with Mark Soder, Republican of Indiana, who, according to the memo, is one of the most conservative stars in the new Congress. Soder, a conservative Christian who interprets the Bible literally, has said his theological views will shape his public policy. He was one of the signers of the contract with America. The confidential report shines light on the recent government shutdown and the battle over the federal budget. We let the government shut down, Soder told CNP interviewer Alex Mooney. This is not a game whether the government is going to shut down. This is our maximum point of leverage to insist that parts of the revolution are executed. Because if they are not attached to money bills, they will never get through. The House Republican leadership, Soder said, has said the minimum goals are to balance the budget in 7 years, reform welfare, save Medicare, and have tax cuts. They wanted to save Medicare. However, Soder added, the freshmen have communicated to leadership that is not enough. Without the support of the new rebels in Congress, House Speaker Newt Gingrich found his hands tied. How many times, as a conservative Republican, how many times do the Republicans or the conservatives just bulk and let people down? Like, how many times are they impotent and don't follow through with what they promised? I mean, that shows you how controlled they are. It really does. I mean, they were doing it then. They're doing it now. Trump was supposed to repeal Obamacare, and it never happened. I mean, where's the wall? Where's all of this that Trump is... Now, you could say, well, John, the Republicans, or they're the ones that are making it hard for Trump, and blah, 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 blah. And they never... The Republicans never do anything, okay? They're impotent. They're impotent. Even if we didn't look at that it was all part of the world order, okay? Even if we didn't look at that and whatever happens, but they've always been impotent, but yet Republicans vote for them. I guess because lesser of the two evils, like my grandpa always says, well, the lesser of two evils is bullcrap. Because time will tell how good of a president Trump is. One of the best examples of lesser of two evils, in my opinion, in a recent presidential election was John Kerry, Skull and Bones member, versus George W. Bush, Skull and Bones member. The question is the details of the budget, Soder said. He added there are social issues, regulation, environmental changes, and labor changes that are of concern. And for example, will we compromise on the National Endowment for the Arts? We are not saying we have to have everything in all of these categories, but it better not be stripped. Nice presidential campaign thing for Dole and Clinton, and not have anything for our hard right supporters. When asked what would really happen if the government shut down, Soder responded, "We don't know or really care." What can CNP members do to support you to ensure there's no compromise on key social and economic issues, the CNP interviewer asked Congressman Soder. The big thing that CNP members can do is bolster up individual congressional members and tell them to hold firm and do what you said you would do, Soder responded. Tell them if you have heavy pressure, know we are with you. CNP members can tell the congressional members with whom they have influence. If you vote against a continuing resolution in order to get your points of agenda, we understand. Hold firm. This is our big chance. The pitch the leadership is making to the freshmen is, are you really going to bring down the entire bill just because of your 1 point? On January 4th, 1996, 3 weeks after much of the federal government remained closed, the Christian Coalition's Washington office faxed an action alert urging its members to pressure President Clinton to give in to Republicans' proposed budget and to keep the pressure on the House and Senate Republican leadership and conservative Democrats. Christian Coalition President Pat Robertson is a former CNP member, or president, should I say. He and the Christian Coalition Executive Director Ralph Reed are active CNP members. The action alert included a list of crucial congressional leaders to contact. It also suggested holding press conferences, calling talk shows, and writing letters to editors. The action alert included a list of crucial congressional leaders to contact. It also suggested holding press conferences, calling talk shows, and writing letters to editors. The action alert emphasized that the issue at stake is more than balancing the budget, including a point-by-point list of the hard right agenda. Some of the numerous lists included a permanent Hyde Amendment, abstinence education funding, education vouchers, a prohibition on unmarried couples adopting children, no funding in the way for abortion, zero goals funding for Goals 2000, a 40% reduction in the National Endowment for the Arts, and elimination of the Office of Surgeon General. After the long government shutdown in history, time will tell how the Council for National Policy and its Christian Coalition members affected the innumerable details of the complex federal budget. Alright, that's back stuff about the CNP that we already know. The group's next meeting is scheduled for March 8th and 9th at the Buena Vista Palace in Orlando, Florida. For 2 days, these leading political and religious right-wing leaders will gather under tight security to hear speakers, attend workshops, networks, and socialize. 10 years ago, when Freedom Water started investigating CNP, a spokesperson refused to answer any questions, saying the group operates as secretly as possible. The members and officers' names are kept strictly within the confines of the organization. At the time, the CNP was located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Today, it has offices at 3030 Clarendon Boulevard in Arlington, Virginia. The Council for National Policy has taken credit for of conservative victories in Congress. They include the defeat of President Clinton's health plan, the defeat of the president's attempt to allow gays to serve openly in the military, the Whitewater hearings. But the Whitewater hearings went nowhere. Sidetracked the Freedom of Choice Act, preventing the passage of the Fairness Doctrine in broadcasting, stopping the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission from prohibiting religious harassment in the workplace, and blocking the lobby reform bill. Some members, such as John Doggett, testified on behalf of Clarence Thomas during his confirmation hearings for a seat on the U.S. Supreme Court. Good old Clarence Thomas defended Lawrence E. King even to the bitter end and was known to attend Lawrence E. King's party. So Clarence Thomas ain't our guy. While the CNP does not endorse or oppose candidates, lobby for and against legislation, or take official position on policy issues, is an affiliated group. CNP Action is politically active. CNP is tax-exempt 501c3 organization. CNP Incorporated is a 501c4, which is exempt from taxes, but contributions to it are not deductible. CNP Action Incorporated can lobby and conduct other political activity. CNP members who lobby usually do so in their own name or in the name of the organization they head. CNP Action conducts the CNP meeting workshops and follows through with reports on the sessions, including the appropriate actions CNP members should take. For example, CNP Action Incorporated interviewed Congressman Mark Soder and sent confidential memos to CNP members urging them to push for a government shutdown in order to coerce President Clinton to include their agenda in the federal budget. Every 6 months, CNP members receive update on producers of television and radio news and public affairs program. This publication lists the names, addresses, phone, and fax numbers for all the national radio and television news and public affairs producers. The CNP members use the list to write the producers to inform them of their area of expertise and interests. They are instructed to give the media their office and home phone number so they can be contacted when their issues arise. The purpose, of course, is to influence the thinking of the media general public. Yeah, well, the CFR does all this. All the left-leaning groups do all this, too. It's interesting how the left always complains about, well, CNP is doing this, CNP is doing that. Well, they're doing it, too. I mean, I'm not saying it makes it fair. I'm just saying you can't call out one side and not call out the other. Once a year, CNP provides members with an analysis of members of Congress who are the most open to persuasion. The report says the legislators listed by state have records over several years of frequently switching their votes back and forth between conservative and liberal positions in legislation, with the categories of economic, social, defense, foreign policy issues. Swing senators and congressmen determine whether we win or lose legislative battles. If a majority of these officials vote on the conservative side, we can prevail. If they vote for liberals, we lose. Please get to know these key legislators now, the report continues, and maintain regular communication with them. Put them on your mailing list to receive your newsletter and other publications. They're open to your information and ideas. By establishing good personal and political relationships with them, you will make a real difference in the outcome of many votes in the committees and on the floor of the House and Senate. CNP Action also sponsors standing committee workshops in the CNP conferences, and they still do all this today, which provide a vehicle for members to work together to influence crucial policy decisions. According to the CNP memo, attendees at these workshops formulate strategies and execute plans to make a difference on the issues that we can have real impact. The 6 permanent standing committees are family, law and justice, economics, institutional reform, and environment. Same people. I'm not going to read the people. The same people I mentioned last time. CNP members receive written reviews for each workshop, including a list of specific steps to implement their ultra-conservative agenda. Same thing happens in the Council of Foreign Relations. I mean, I'm not saying that's right, I'm just saying, come on. For example, at the September 1995 meeting at the Opryland Hotel in Nashville, Kathy Adams, president of the Texas Eagle Forum, proposed defeating the next United Nations Women Conference in June in Turkey called Habitat 2. She said the meeting's agenda includes zero population growth, livestock control, redistribution of economic resources among countries, and city planning. Conservatives, she said, must unite and plan now to be in Turkey. I mean, the United Nations, are they not for those things? As a conservative, shouldn't I stand against those things? Doesn't that seem very close to Agenda 21 or Agenda 30? It would be terrific, she added, to get us out of the UN. Our goal must be to derail the liberal agenda in Turkey and defeat President Clinton in 1996. Well, they've been trying to get us out of the UN forever. It seems to me that that's kind of a talking point by the CNP of something they will never do. Every CNP Action Incorporated report ends with the action items. They often name specific senators or representatives to contact and often ask that the information be passed on to interested think tanks or other groups that sometimes ask for names for foundations, companies, or major sponsors who may help financially with a specific intended action. While these tactics are not new or particularly innovative, yeah, because the left uses them too. They demonstrate that the hard right is well organized. Yeah, so is the hard left. Superb organization and advancing communication skills help explain the many successes of the hard right. Same with the hard left. The Council for National Policy is a group leading the way. I could say this. While the tactics are not new or particularly innovative, they demonstrate that the hard left is well organized. Superb organizing and advanced communication skills help explain the many successes of the hard left. The Council on Foreign Relations is the group leading the way. After March 8th and 9th meeting, CNP meets next in August 9th and 10th in San Diego. Final meeting of 1996 follows after the national election on November 8th and 9th in Williamsburg, Virginia. While CNP may not endorse presidential candidates, its members... they do endorse presidential candidates. Its members will surely oppose the re-election of President Clinton and push the ultra-conservative agenda. There's nothing the hard right wants more to control both Houses of Congress and the White House. Council for National Policy tied to Paula Jones, January-February 1998 by Skip Portis. And I've backed up this research. It is true. In 1994, the Secret Council for National Policy launched an effort to expose the evil which infests the Clinton administration by exposing the presidential alleged illegal and immoral activities. What? Whitewater? What? Mina? Vince Foster? Kill count? No. None of that. Monica Lewinsky. BJ's in the office. CNP Action Incorporated, the Council for National Policy's political arm, sent copies of the video of the Clinton Chronicles. So the CNP was pushing Richard Mellon Scafey-funded Clinton Chronicles. To its members, the video allegedly documents Bill Clinton's sexual encounters with numerous women. A closed memorandum said, encloses a copy of the newly revised and updated Clinton Chronicles. Video documents many illegal and immoral activities of Bill Clinton as both governor and president. After viewing this tape, pass it on to a friend, relative, business associate, public official, or member of the media. As many Americans as possible should become informed about the evil which infests the Clinton administration. Bill Clinton must be held accountable for his actions. I mean, that's true. That's true. But it's more than just, raping women and sexual misconduct. It's more than that. It's the private, and that stuff is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not, but the evil is more than just that. The private September 12, 1994 memorandum obtained by the Freedom Rider also instructed CNP members to contact state senators and congressmen with whom you have influence. The Council for National Policy holds several clandestine meetings a year for its 500-plus influential members, comprised of religious, political, and business leaders. The group is virtual who's who of the right wing. Now, one of the secret group's members is representing Paula Jones in her sexual harassment suit against Bill Clinton. Attorney John Wayne Whitehead, president of the Rutherford Institute, is listed on the Council for National Policy's 1995 and 1996 membership list, the latest list available. Whitehead and the Rutherford Institute took the Paula Jones case after her original attorneys withdrew. Attorney Donovan Campbell Jr., a longtime Rutherford associate from Dallas, is handling the case for Rutherford. Notably, this is the first sexual harassment case ever taken by the Rutherford Institute. In the past, I'm just laughing because nothing ever happened from this. Bill Clinton was not impeached. This is an all-limited hangout. All of it. In the past, the organization was known for accepting cases in opposition to abortion and homosexuality. I want to ask the people out there who don't believe Katie Johnson and her involvement with Donald John Trump. When Lisa Bloom takes her case, and people are like, well, that shows that, it's controlled and nothing, the original complaint that Katie Johnson had filed in California by herself, that doesn't mean anything. And look, nothing happened, nothing came of it. It's all done, nothing to see here. Would they say the same thing when Council for National Policy member Whitehead, John Wayne Whitehead, his law firm takes the Paula Jones case, Monica Lewinsky, to go against Bill Clinton with the Kinstar report information obtained from that, and nothing happens? It's the same. It's the same control bullcrap. But no, because this deals with the Clintons, everybody's gonna believe it, and no one's gonna believe Katie Johnson. It makes me sick. In the past, the organization was known for accepting cases in opposition to abortion and homosexuality. Yes, Clinton was impeached, but he was not removed. That is right. I've said that. But it didn't go through its totality. He was impeached in the House, but he was not convicted in the Senate. Just like Donald Trump is currently impeached by the House, but has not been convicted by the Senate. Now, some people argue if the articles of impeachment never make to Congress, is he impeached? Well, that's a debate. But it's the same limited hangout that happened with Clinton that's happening with Trump. There ain't no difference between the two. It appears as if the CNP member, Whitehead, saw the Paula Jones case as an opportunity to go after the president. However, according to the New York Times, Mr. Whitehead insists that he did not seek the case to harass the president and he has no political agenda. Oh gosh, no, he said. I never saw this in terms of a political agenda. Okay, well, that's a lie. But it's also a whitewash. Whitehead's retort seems disingenuous for someone who belongs to a group intent of destroying the presidency of Bill Clinton. Although Whitehead claims that he has no political agenda in taking the case, in 1993 he opposed President Clinton's vow to allow practicing homosexuals to serve in the armed forces. In 1993 fundraising letter he wrote, the homosexual lobby is growing much bolder, and for the first time in history of a president who publicly supports the homosexual agenda. The Freedom writer attempted to interview Whitehead for this article. As of press time, he had not returned a call. Everybody listening here, we all know that the Council for National Policy, if there were any white hats in the world order, I mean, they've been saying Joseph Dunford and the white hats were working since the late 1980s, 1990s. Trust the plan. It's been in a plan and operation since the scam has been operating since the early 1990s, okay? You can go back and look, Dove of Oneness, Ramtha Enlightenment Institute. You just put a new coat of paint on it and run it again. This time it's more sophisticated because we have the internet. It's the same with this. You would go after Clinton for the murder of Vince Foster, the Clinton body count, Whitewater, Mena, Arkansas, war crimes. But no, they go after him on sexual harassment. They don't even really go after him for the sexual harassment allegations on Paula Jones. They go after him for lying about it, Linda Tripp, about Monica Lewinsky. So he becomes, Ken Starr, does a Starr report. They impeach him in the House for perjury, and I think also for obstruction of justice. And nothing happens in the Senate. He is not convicted. And it's actually argued that, let's say even Trump gets convicted this time, you can't remove a sitting president. So he can serve out his entire term until, he's up for, criminal prosecution. So nothing ever happened with this. And it wasn't like, the Clintons are dirty as they come. It's not like the Council for National Policy. If they truly were our organization, just like people claim that Trump's our guy and the CNP's our organization now, they would have gone after Clinton for every crime that he's committed. But they didn't. This is a limited hangout. Just like you can argue that the liberals are not going after Trump for all the crimes that he's committed, and instead are going after quid pro quo in Ukraine. And it's a limited hangout, Trump's connections to the Jewish Russian oligarchs, the mountain Jewish oligarchs in Russia. Kay Johnson and Trump's connections to Epstein. None of that. They're not going after any. It's a limited hangout too. Cub mentioned in the chat the same with Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah, the liberals went after Kavanaugh for Blasey Ford. Well, they should have went after Kavanaugh for covering up. Well, they wouldn't. Okay, they wouldn't. But if there was any honesty, they would have gone after Kavanaugh for covering up the Vince Foster murder. But they didn't, because it's all a sham. All of this is a sham. So the CNP was involved in the failed impeachment of, failed conviction of Bill Clinton and his removal from office. And they were against, they pushed that. They pushed the government shutdown. They were involved in Iran-Contra. They were involved in the Franklin scandal. They were involved in 9/11. They're involved in the Mariana Islands human trafficking scandal that still goes on to this day. And you have Corey Lewandowski running casinos down there. It's still all of this. They're all connected to all of these things. The Republican Party is not our guy. It's all a sham. And now people believe in the left-right paradigm now more than ever. More than ever. Because of the culture war. Well, screw your culture war. It's not even being, as a conservative for me, it's not even going to be won if all these people are fucks. It just won't be. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Till next time, always read the documents. Good night, everybody. Well, actually, good day, everybody.